team-based competitive shooters are in danger of being totally overdone. It is becoming increasingly challenging to stand out in what is an ultra-competitive domain. Just look at the fate of Concord. Thus, tapping into a niche is more critical than ever. Pioneer is amongst a long line of shooters vying for your attention in 2025, and the niche here, well, it can't be described as a niche as such. This MMORPG FPS, coming from Studio GFA Games, is chucking nearly every possible mechanic and system into its experience. Big lungful of air now. There's an alternate reality open world filled with Stalker and Fallout-esque anomalies, dense lore that is richly imbued in classic sci-fi. There's a story campaign. There'll be both PvE missions and PvP arenas. Minigames in the shape of fishing, an extraction shooter mode, factions with unique personalities, extensive weapon customization, survival mechanics, crafting, clan-based social interactions, raids. The list really feels like it should go on and on. We know what you're thinking. How can a game combining all these features into one unified experience? Well, can it possibly be actually good at everything? Or is there a danger Pioneer will be defined as a jack of all trades, master of none? To alleviate any concerns, it's worth pointing out that GFA Games have been working on Pioneer since its inception in 2021, so that's plenty of time for the team of 70 to get all the game's ducks in a row. Furthermore, the game probably has the finances secured too, so the budget will most certainly be there to ensure Pioneer is as polished as possible come its eventual release. And finally, if you pay attention to its gameplay reveals, you might notice a handful of careful design considerations that'll assist players in dividing their workload to avoid tending to numerous different game modes simultaneously. The game's open world is an isolated Soviet-era island, a 50 square kilometer patch of irradiated wasteland known as Tartarus, populated by wild animals, mutants, and cosmic anomalies. This setting, whilst not exactly the Chernobyl exclusion zone, is how Pioneer gets its comparisons with Stalker, although it must be pointed out that this is not a ripoff as some may infer. No, both GSC Game World's vision of the zone in Stalker and GFA Games' radiation-heavy island draw inspiration from the same source. The Strugatsky brothers' philosophical sci-fi novella Roadside Picnic, and, by extension, Andrei Tarkovsky's 1979 movie adaptation. For reference, Roadside Picnic can be argued at this point to have spawned a whole genre off the back of its phantasmagorical phenomena, with VR game Into the Radius and 2024's Pacific Drive showing clear influence alongside movies such as Alex Garland's Annihilation and Amazon Prime series Tales from the Loop. This island, though, it's divided up into sectors whereby specific activities can be undertaken. In the developer's words, the right-hand side of the island, so presumably the east, is the territory you'll find the harshest PvPvE zones and clan wars. This area, dubbed the Empty Lands, is where you'll find the fiercest firefights against human opponents, alongside the island's most ferocious creatures. But here's also where the most valuable loot is to be found. This territory is devoid of quests, and in the developer's words, is much less forgiving than the island's other regions. Straight away, we're seeing a risk versus reward in venturing into these most hostile of zones. The game's escape from Tarkov-style extraction mode is found within the Shadowlands, a derelict wasteland nestled inside the right-hand, read the eastern side, of the island too. Gameplay here comprises gathering resources alongside your clansmen before taking strategic choke points and production facilities by force, then attempting to reach a safe zone via a multitude of possible paths. GFA Games points out that there are no guides on the right-hand side of the island, meaning fast travel is impossible. However, guides will, guide you to other sectors of the island, where extraction shooter zones are eschewed in favor of raids and world bosses, more akin to something like the well-established MMO FPS titles like Destiny 2. If there's familiarity in the game's activities, GFA Games are banking on the fantastical phenomenon, cloaking the island to inject some unfamiliarity. No matter how often Roadside Picnic's inspiration crops up in media, video games' interactive nature oftentimes provides the most effective adaptations. These worlds made hostile by unfathomable forces are unwaveringly intoxicating, but video games excel over other forms of media in how this phenomena can be interacted with and how it influences the gameplay. Within Pioneer's Island, bundles of energy known as artifacts are dotted throughout, although these are stated as extremely rare, so keep that in mind. The implication being that their value is sky high. Furthermore, GFA Games advises that activation of these artifacts by the wrong hands can lead to disastrous consequences. Whilst they haven't given us a precise explanation as to what these disastrous consequences entail, we are shown glimpses of anomaly-enhanced weaponry, a rifle modified with bullets that can melt whatever lands in its sight, and sickly green landmines which elevate out of the marshy ground before detonating. Of course, the wrong hands could lead us towards believing there'll be an antagonistic force operating on this island, an army hell-bent on gathering up all the powerful artifacts for themselves. GFA Games are being tight-lipped on Pioneer's narrative arc, but we do see a couple of cultish-looking dudes stepping through a dark forest as a sinister narrator speaks of breaking free from shackles whilst the power of the tides destroys you. What this means, we don't know for sure, but it seems a safe bet that the reason behind all this inter-island conflict will be something to do with the power these artifacts bestow. The island's factions are at war, vying for possession of cosmic forces they probably don't fully understand. And speaking of factions, Tartarus is stated presently to be divided between 4, although details on 2 are all that's been shared up until now. They're the logical islands dubbed the Source Conglomerate and a paramilitary unit operating under the moniker Brigade. What little detail we do know in Pioneer story is that players will be tasked by faction leaders to complete missions, with players choosing with whom they wish to align. Completing tasks builds relationship, fosters loyalty, and yields plenty of bonuses. Alongside resources gathered, a healthy wad of cash will be integral to crafting upgrades for the game's host of weapons. Anomaly scanners, likely another item integral to survival, can be upgraded or, as hinted in Pioneer's gameplay reveal, be bought outright. Survival mechanics round out this brutal experience, although we're not seeing full Fallout-style base building at present. These mechanics are likely going to include the need for rest, recuperation, and nourishment. Whilst weapon designs are suitably weathered to reflect the irradiated landscape they inhabit, we're not seeing misfires or wayward aiming akin to Stalker series or even Far Cry 2. That's a detail which would certainly foster a deeper immersiveness in the island's conflict, although GFA Games might have already decided surviving this hostile climate is tough enough without weapons skewing awry. All equipment is rated by accuracy, rarity, and damage though, so you never actually know. At face value, Pioneer doesn't seem to have a lot of originality, but the gunplay looks great, the environments are well considered, and its lore is definitely intriguing. Should all the survivalist mechanics meld well with the plethora of game modes, then Pioneer looks like an online competitive shooter that has a solid chance of establishing itself for a long time. So, what are your thoughts on this? Go ahead and share them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon to get new video updates. We upload every day and would really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching.